Welcome to the Fit Life for Busy Parents podcast. My name is Coach Cam, and my mission here is simple. I want to empower you as high achieving parents to go out there and regain energy, confidence, and identity through a series of proven strategies. So, with that being said, the concept I want to be able to talk about today is the idea that a story, right, especially like a story meaning something that you're going through that's hard, right, hardships, struggle, challenges, right, are only something that become like this amazing story, right? And oh my gosh, like this is incredible. Like they went through so many things, right? If there's success on the other side of that story, right? Let me give you an example. If you've had a horrible life, right? You didn't have parents growing up. Maybe they both, passed at a really young age and you went through a really bad school system and this, that, and the other, right? If the end of your story there was that you ended up incarcerated, right? That is not a big story, right? That is not something that gets told and heard. And wow, that's so incredible, right? The only way that story becomes incredible and something we go, wow, that's something that I need to be able to aspire to become better at, right? Or I need to, use that as motivation for myself, right, etc. Is if the end outcome is something that is like unprecedented, right? It's something like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what it was like to be able to get there through all that adversity, right? And so, with that being said, I think a lot of times, right, as you know, busy working adults, right, high achieving adults in so many areas of our lives, right? Being successful with our careers, maybe even being incredible parents, right? Being a great son, right? Daughter, right? Whatever it might be. We are very successful in a lot of areas of our lives. But when it comes to our health in particular, right? It's a commitment that we have to make to ourselves, and we give ourselves a million excuses of why that doesn't happen, right? Now, if you're okay with your story not being something that you're prideful about and that you feel good about and is an example of who you are as an individual, right? You're someone who works hard, you're someone who's dedicated, that you are going to put in the work and not take the easy way out, right? If you're okay with your story in terms of your health and your life not really being that way, then sure, no means do you need to be able to do anything, right? You can just continue to stay on the the same path that you've been on, right? But 9 times out of 10, when I talk to people, right, they're not okay with that ending. They're not okay with that. This is going to be your legacy, right? The guy who worked really hard and died at 55 because he had a massive coronary heart attack. The mom who really prioritized everything with her kids, but ended up, dying of diabetes at 60, right? Never got to retire or never got to do this, that, and the other, right? The individual who, did everything for their community, right? But never got to really enjoy life because from 52 years old, let's say, they were debilitated because they either lost a leg due to diabetes or they were too overweight to be able to like really walk and enjoy life the way that they want. Maybe they miss out on major experiences, right? All those things, possibilities, if you don't push through that, right? And make your story, your circumstances, the reason why it's so difficult to imagine being able to get that end goal, right? Making that story something, wow, that's amazing, right? You have to go through something that most people won't go through, right? That's just the reality. And I've heard this, and you've probably heard this, right, through different like sound clips on Instagram or whatever it might be, TikTok, right? Where it's like, I like when a challenge is really difficult, right? Something that I almost feel like, can I do this? Right? And the reason being is because I know other people will give up before they even start, right? So now I have an advantage that I can go out there and do something, right? And work my tail off and be able to accomplish something that most people won't even attempt at doing because it's too difficult, right? So in that, right, we do this all the time with ourselves, right? And saying, ah, you know what, I'm gonna wait until my kids get older because right now they're, you know, I'll give my example. They're 3 and 6. I only got one who's in school like half days, so it's all good. Once they're both in school full time, I'll go ahead and do it, right? Not considering the fact that they're probably both going to be in sports. They're probably both going to have extra, after school activities, right? There's going to be more carpooling because maybe you got to take them to two different schools, right? Etc. Right? Making it more difficult, right? Maybe it's that you're like, ah, you know what? I got a lot of work projects right now. Work is just crazy because, maybe you're an entrepreneur, right? And you're like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing and get it up off the ground. I have to really like just put a lot of effort in, right? Your story will be awesome as an entrepreneur, but it'll be like, oh, okay, but you also let your health deteriorate, right? And maybe you make all this money as an entrepreneur, right? And your business takes off and boom, 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 boom. But you have to go on medical leave at 51 because you have a stroke, or maybe you're unable to go and do this, that, and the other. Right now, I'm obviously using extreme examples to be able to paint the picture, but these aren't all that extreme, right? We know people who have cancer multiple times when they're in their early 50s, right? We know people who have had heart attacks in their early 40s, even sometimes, right? We know people who have diabetes, right? And maybe you've even lost limbs or toes, right? Fingers, whatever, right? So although these seem extreme, they're not really all that extreme, right? So again, we can always make the excuse, right? But what's going to be your excuse why you do something? Right? What's going to be the reason that you go out there and get this done and make your story not something where it's like, yeah, I became this, this, but I let all these other things happen, right? And instead, you become that, wow, they were an incredible mother. They were a world-class businesswoman, and they took care of their health, right? And they did this, and they did that, right? That's really what we have to strive for. And what that means is that we got to show up with the right mindset, right? One thing that I've always found to myself, right, which I think is something that is a key factor in my success throughout my life, and I've also heard other people say that makes them successful as well, is that when I see a roadblock or a challenge, right, something that's going to make this more difficult, right, instead of looking at it as like, oh, that's a reason to turn around, right, I look at it as something to be able to really found like put my foundation in my faith in myself, right, and say, battle tested this, I'm ready for this, right? It's an opportunity to show myself how capable I truly am, right? And overcome that to be able to go on the other side and be able to have an amazing story, right? I mean, think about this. You could do this from biblical text, right? With Moses walking up to the Red Sea, right? And being able to go out there and make the Red Sea split, right? Obviously, right? Could have very easily got to that and been like, I don't know, I don't really have enough faith in, what God told me. I'll just go ahead and turn around, right? And be able to go and do that, right? Or, right? Go ahead and do it, right? Show up, put your faith into yourself, really be able to go out there and get things done, right? You can look at this from athletes, right? Some of our favorite athletes, the reason why we love their story is because they came from nothing, right? They had parents who maybe both were, one was locked up, one was, working two jobs. Maybe it was just that they had to work really, really hard, right? Um, uh, the Special Olympics, right? A lot of times we look at people who have either disabilities or have had like major limbs cut off, right? And think, oh man, that's so incredible that they're able to do that. All of those things, the reason why we look at it, wow, that's incredible. I really, really love that is because we know one, that they had to come overcome a lot of obstacles, but two, the mentality, right? That's truly what we love is the mentality behind it. Because we know that they had to make sacrifices. We know that they had to go through hardships. We know that there was times that they questioned whether or not they could even show up anymore, and they continued to show up. So my challenge to you out there as a high achieving parent, right? As a busy working parent, as someone who has a million things on their plates, maybe you're wearing a million different hats. Maybe you feel like you have so much on your plate and you don't think you can possibly add one more thing is one, if you want your story to be greatness, right? And two, especially when it comes to your health, right? And we're talking about fitness in particular, right? Nutrition, your cardio, your weight, your strength training, your yoga, whatever it is that you like to be able to do, right? Is is it really going to take that much time? Or are you making this, right? Because of the mentality, so much harder than what it needs to be. I watched this video the other day just to kind of like be able to round this out, right? And it was a guy and he was trying to lift up and deadlift some weight and he got like halfway up and he dropped it. He said, I'm tired, coach, to his trainer, right? Trainer said to get away from the bar, right? And so the guy kind of like backs away and you see him just in the camera now and he goes, if you show up tired, right? And he was talking to someone who obviously plays football because of the way that he got positioned and stuff. But if you show up tired after halftime, right, and you lock up to the line of scrimmage and you're exhausted and you're telling yourself, I'm tired, it doesn't matter how skilled you are. The guy on the other side of the line of scrimmage is going to go ahead and dust you every single time. He's going to have your number for the rest of the evening, right? Or you can show up and say, hey, I know this is going to be hard. I know this isn't going to be the easiest. I know that I've gone through A, B, C, and D, but I'm not going to be denied. I'm going to show up and I'm going to show out. And he says, in that point, if you still lose, right, if you're still unsuccessful, we can live with that, right? Because now we go back to the drawing boards and we reevaluate what we need to do and get that done. But if it's the mentality, you're never going to be able to overcome that, right? Because you're never going to challenge yourself and be able to come out on the other side. We can go ahead and get you stronger. We can get you to be more, have more stamina. We can get X, Y, Z. But if you don't change up here, it doesn't matter what you do to prepare. You're not going to be able to show up and perform at your best. And the same thing comes true with doing your fitness journey, despite the fact you have a million different things going on. Showing up for work, even though you got a million things going on at home, and maybe your kids have you going crazy and this, that, and the other, right? You can always find reasons why you're tired, why you can't do it, why someone else should be able to do it, why this is too difficult. Or you can go out there and you can make sure that you cut all the excuses, you show up and you say, I will not be denied, and give yourself at least a fighting chance to be able to come out on the other side and make your story something that other people, whether that's your kids, whether that's your coworkers, whether that's your family members, right? Be able to say, damn, that's impressive. And really give you your flowers for the fact that you went out there and you put in that work. So my challenge to you is, what is the goal that seems unattainable to you right now? What's the thing that you feel like you don't have enough time, energy, whatever the thing is? I don't have the right resources. I don't have the means to invest, right? What are the things out there that you're making the excuses? The little voice in the back of your head is saying, I can't do that. Challenge that, say, screw that, go out there and do it anyways. Use your lack of motivation, use your self doubt, use the little person in the back of your head who's telling you you can't as fuel to the fire. Say, no, this is an opportunity to show myself what I am capable of and come out on the other side. Until then, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single podcast going forward. Make sure that you go out there and you turn one day into a lifestyle. And let's go out there and keep this tidal wave raging, baby. I'll see you guys on the next episode.